Okay, let's get into this. We've all seen those ads, right? Shimmering temples, amazing street food, and this promise of living like a king for next to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we're doing a much-needed deep dive into the real cost of living in Bangkok.
Beyond the glossy photos?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, our sources do confirm that Bangkok is incredibly affordable, especially compared to, say, London or New York. But that promise of cheap living can be a bit of a trap.
It really can.
So our mission today is to break down the actual expenses you're going to face. We're talking rent, food, transport, and maybe most importantly, the hidden fees you just don't see coming.
And it all comes down to one core concept, really. It's the foundation of how people make it work there.
You're talking about geoarbitrage.
I am. It's this simple, powerful idea. You're earning your money in a strong currency, US dollars, euros, whatever, and you're spending it in a weaker one, the Thai baht.
Right. So a salary of, say, $3,000 a month, which might feel pretty tight in California, suddenly feels like a small fortune when you convert it to baht. It's probably the single biggest financial advantage you can have.
It's the whole reason Bangkok is such a magnet for remote workers. But, and this is a big but, it also creates this kind of financial divide that you have to understand from day one.
What do you mean by a divide?
Well, the initial prices for everything look like an absolute steal, but the true cost, as we call it, includes all the things you might not budget for back home. We're talking visa fees, comprehensive health insurance, which is non-negotiable, and utility bills that can honestly shock you.
And that leads right into this split in the expat community. Our sources call it the dreamers versus the doers.
Yeah, and this distinction is just crucial for anyone trying to make a budget. The dreamers are pulled in purely by the low cost of living.
They see the cheap food, the cheap rent.
Exactly. They arrive with some savings, but they don't really have a solid plan or, more importantly, a consistent income stream. They kind of hope to just figure it out on the fly.
And what happens when that initial pot of savings starts to run dry?
They struggle. They end up in this cycle of doing visa runs, which is a huge drain, both financially and mentally. And they're always just one emergency away from a crisis, a broken laptop, a client who doesn't pay.
So they're living on the edge?
Constantly. They often have to cut corners on the important stuff, like proper health insurance, just to make rent.
Which brings us to the doers. These are the professionals.
Precisely. The doers have their income sorted before they arrive. They have established businesses, solid remote jobs, a reliable flow of that strong currency coming in.
So for them, Bangkok isn't a lifeline, it's a strategic base.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's a low overhead, highly effective place to operate and grow. The low cost of living is just a massive bonus, not the thing they're depending on for survival.
And that's really the key takeaway for you listening at home. You have to decide which strategy you're going to adopt before you even book the flight. Geoarbitrage is a rocket ship, but you've got to keep fueling the engine.
Absolutely, because having that reliable income lets you make the long-term commitments that actually save you the most money.
Speaking of which, let's talk about the biggest line item on any budget: accommodation. This is where you either sink or swim financially.
It really is.
My first piece of advice here, and it's classic for a reason, is don't rush. When you land, just book a simple guest house or a hostel for a week. Give yourself time.
That breathing room is so essential. Bangkok's rental market is massive, and if you rush, you will absolutely pay a premium.
So once you're on the ground, where do you even start looking?
You start by understanding the transportation network, specifically the BTS and the MRT.
Right, the SkyTrain and the subway. They're basically the arteries of the city.
They are, and rent is directly tied to how close you are to a station. The convenience costs you. So if you're willing to walk, say, 10 or 15 minutes,
Or look just a few blocks away from the main hub.
you can save a serious chunk of change. Look at neighborhoods a little further out, like An Nut or for Kanong. They're still on the BTS line, so they're connected, but they offer much better value than, say, hyper-central Sukhumvit.
And here's where that stability we talked about really pays off. If you're planning an extended stay, commitment is cash. A longer lease will dramatically lower your rent.
Oh, absolutely. Landlords love stability. A month-to-month lease is flexible, sure, but it'll run you maybe 10 to 15,000 baht for a basic studio.
Which is still cheap by Western standards, but not Bangkok cheap.
Not at all. But if you commit to a 12-month lease for that same unit, you can often negotiate that down into the 6 to 10,000 baht range. That's a huge discount.
And that's why we see a lot of professionals, the doers, often opting for things like service departments for these longer stays.
It makes perfect sense. If you're there for 6 months or a year on a project, you need a reliable, comfortable base. And there are resources, some that have been helping business travelers for decades, that specialize in exactly that, connecting people with these extended stay solutions because they hit that sweet spot of professional amenities and long-term cost savings.
Good point. And when you're looking at condos, you have to remember that rooftop pool and gym aren't free, right?
Never. Those management fees are passed straight on to you. And you have to factor in utilities. Sometimes an older building with a slightly higher rent but lower utility costs is actually cheaper overall.
And before you sign anything,
Yeah.
inspect everything.
Everything. Water damage, check the AC units, the plumbing. A tiny leak now is a massive headache down the line.
One last thing on housing. Be ready for the upfront costs.
Yes, this is a big one. Most places want a 2-month security deposit plus the first month's rent. So you need 3 months' rent in cash before you even get the keys?
That's a huge amount of money to have tied up right when you land.
It is.
Okay, let's move on to daily life. This is where you can really slash your budget. And the number one rule is
Eat like a local.
every single time.
It is the single biggest budget saver there is. If you're eating street food, you will spend a tiny fraction of what you would at a Western-style restaurant.
Give us some numbers.
Sure, a plate of pad krapao or fried rice is maybe 50 to 70 baht. A simple 3-egg omelet might be 30 baht. Even a bottle of water from 7-Eleven is, 15 baht?
So if you stick to those delicious local options, you could probably get by on a food budget of around 15,000 THB a month and eat like a king.
Easily.
But I have to ask, is that sustainable? I mean, if I'm living there long term, am I sacrificing nutrition by just eating street food all day?
That's a great question, and it's mostly a myth. Thai street food vendors use incredibly fresh ingredients, usually bought that same morning from the market. It's cooked right in front of you.
So it's not like fast food back home.
Not at all. You can find plenty of healthy options. The only time your budget explodes is if you start craving expensive imported stuff. You know, fancy cheese or Western comfort food. That's when your costs triple.
That makes sense. And even for groceries, there's a local strategy.
Absolutely. You use the local fresh markets for your produce. That's where the best value is. For pantry items, you go to a wholesale place like Macro.
Avoid the big international supermarkets for fresh stuff.
Right. They're fine for some things, but their prices reflect that they cater to a more international crowd.
Okay, what about getting around? Taxis can add up.
They can, so you look for the local options, like the Songfas.
Ah, yes, the red pickup trucks with the benches in the back.
Exactly. They're everywhere outside the main tourist core. You just hail one, hop in, and if you're going a short distance in a central area, you should be aiming for about 20 baht.
20 baht. You have to know that price.
You have to. If the trip is longer or it's late at night, maybe 50 bahts is more realistic.
Yeah.
But knowing those baseline prices saves you from getting overcharged.
All right, so we've covered the big savings. Now let's talk about the things that bite you. The real hidden costs that can wreck that perfect budget.
And number one, for anyone without a long-term visa, is the visa run trap.
This isn't just a small fee, is it? Break down the cost for us.
It's a combination of money, time, and just pure hassle. First, you have the actual visa fee. Then you have the travel costs of bus to Laos or a cheap flight to Kuala Lumpur. That flight alone might be 3,000 to 5,000 baht.
And the lost time. That's an opportunity cost.
A huge one. It's a full day, maybe 2, of lost work or exploring. If you're doing that every few months, it really adds up. You have to budget for the cash and the disruption.
Then there's the utility shock. We love air conditioning, but it comes at a price.
It really does. Your rent might be low, but if you're blasting that AC all day in the hot season, your electricity bill can be a monster.
How much are we talking?
Well, water's pretty cheap, maybe 100 to 300 baht a month. But electricity can go from a reasonable 1,000 baht to over 4,000 very easily. Internet is usually a steady 500 to 1,000. But that whole package can add another 5,000 baht to your monthly baseline.
And now, for the most critical, absolutely non-negotiable expense. We have to be clear on this one. Health insurance.
This is vital. Healthcare in Thailand is excellent, but it is not free for foreigners. Skipping this is just playing financial roulette.
And this is something that really separates the doers from the dreamers.
It is. The private hospitals are world-class, but they are expensive. A simple scooter scrape that gets infected can cost you thousands of baht without insurance. A serious emergency like an appendectomy could be catastrophic.
And travel insurance from back home isn't enough, right?
No, that's usually just for short-term emergencies.
Yeah.
For long-term living, you need a proper expat policy that covers both inpatient and outpatient care.
And it has to include medical evacuation.
Yes, that's crucial. If you have a serious accident and need to be flown somewhere for specialized care, that cost alone is astronomical. And always, always read the fine print. Make sure it covers things like riding a motorbike if you plan to do that.
Okay, so that's the big stuff. What about the smaller leaks in the budget?
Little things like bank fees for international transfers, currency exchange costs, ATM withdrawal fees, they seem small, but they add up over a year. You have to be mindful.
Let's focus on maximizing what's left. Outside of rent, the biggest lifestyle choice you control is probably alcohol.
Oh, it's a massive variable. A craft cocktail at a rooftop bar will cost you pretty much what it would in a Western city.
The markup is huge.
Huge. The smart hack is simple. Buy your beer or wine from 7-Eleven or a supermarket.
Huh.
The price difference between drinking a Chang at a local spot versus a fancy bar is just exponential.
And that smart shopping applies to more than just alcohol.
For sure. For household goods, skip the big chains and go to the local neighborhood stores. For clothes or furniture, use the Facebook expat groups. They are so active for buying and selling good secondhand stuff.
And now, for maybe the most powerful tool of all, local knowledge. How to avoid the tourist trap.
Tourists just consistently overpay for everything because they stick to the main drags.
The strategy is literally just to walk a few blocks away.
That's it. Walk 2 or 3 blocks away from a major attraction or BTS station. The food quality is often better, and the price drops by half.
And a little bit of language goes a long way.
It really does. A simple Sawasdee crap or kahalo and thank you can make a huge difference. It shows respect and often ensures you get the local price, not the inflated tourist price.
The classic example being the tuk-tuk ride.
Exactly. A ride that a tourist gets charged 200 baht for, a local might pay 50 for. It's just about being an educated consumer.
At the end of the day, the goal isn't to deprive yourself. It's about finding that sweet spot between saving and actually enjoying your life.
It is. It's about conscious choices. Splurge on that incredible dinner once a week or a weekend island trip, but save on the daily habits. Maybe instant coffee instead of a 150 baht latte.
So, to recap our deep dive, Thailand is incredibly affordable, but only if you really embrace local living.
And if you have that financial stability from a reliable income stream, you have to lean into the local food, local transport, and commit to longer-term leases to get the real benefits.
But, and this is the big but, you absolutely must budget proactively for those hidden costs. The visas, the potential for a high AC bill, and that non-negotiable health insurance policy.
The true affordability isn't just the sticker price. It's about finding that balance between saving money and having the stability and peace of mind to actually enjoy your life there.
Yeah.
And here's a final thought for you to chew on. We've talked about how powerful geoarbitrage is for maximizing your income in Bangkok. But what's the unexpected cost if that income stream from abroad suddenly stops or even just slows down, given the high non-refundable upfront costs like that 3-month security deposit and the big annual insurance premium that you need to establish yourself as a stable doer in the first place?